Animal number 1. The blobfish, nature's ultimate misunderstood creature. If you've spent any time on the internet, chances are you've seen the blobfish. With its saggy, droopy face and almost cartoonishly sad expression, it has been labeled the world's ugliest animal. But there's a lot more to this deep-sea oddity than meets the eye. The blobfish is a prime example of how nature adapts creatures to extreme environments in ways that may seem bizarre to us. The blobfish, Cycrolutes marcedus, is a deep-sea fish found off the coasts of Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. It lives at depths ranging from 2,000 to 4,000 feet, where the pressure is dozens of times greater than what we experience at sea level. Unlike most fish that have swim bladders to help them float, the blobfish has a body composed of a gelatinous, soft mass. This allows it to hover just above the seafloor, without expending much energy. But here's the weird part. The blobfish doesn't actually look the way it does in viral photos. That infamous melting appearance only happens when it's removed from its deep-sea habitat and brought to the surface. The sudden change in pressure causes its soft body to expand and lose its natural shape. In its natural environment, the blobfish looks much more like a typical fish, with a more compact body adapted to life under extreme pressure. To understand why the blobfish looks the way it does, we need to consider how life at extreme depths differs from life closer to the surface. The deep sea is one of the harshest environments on Earth. There is no sunlight, the temperatures are near freezing, and the immense pressure would crush most living things. For many deep-sea creatures, traditional fish adaptations like scales, swim bladders, and fast movement don't work well. Instead, creatures like the blobfish rely on different strategies to survive. The blobfish's gelatinous body is actually an advantage. Unlike fish with rigid bones and strong muscles, the blobfish doesn't need to expend energy to swim. It simply drifts with the ocean currents, conserving energy and waiting for food to come to it. Since it lives in an environment with very little food, this slow-moving passive hunting strategy helps it survive. Its body density is slightly less than water, allowing it to hover just above the ocean floor without actively swimming. Its diet consists mainly of small crustaceans, sea urchins, mollusks, and other deep-sea organisms that happen to drift by. Unlike active predators that hunt their prey, the blobfish is more of an ambush predator. It simply sits and waits, snapping up anything that comes too close. This may not be the most exciting way to catch food, but it's highly effective in the deep-sea environment, where food is scarce and energy conservation is key. Despite their strange appearance and passive hunting methods, blobfish have a surprising ability to thrive in their natural habitat. They don't have many natural predators, mostly because few creatures are adapted to hunt in such deep environments. However, humans pose an indirect threat to the species. Blobfish are often caught as bycatch in deep-sea fishing operations. Large fishing trawlers use heavy nets to drag the seafloor, scooping up everything in their path, including blobfish. Since they live at such extreme depths, any blobfish caught in these nets usually don't survive once brought to the surface. Because blobfish are rarely seen in their natural environment, scientists still don't know much about them. Their reproductive habits, population size, and lifespan are largely unknown. What we do know is that deep-sea trawling is harming many fragile ecosystems, and creatures like the blobfish may be paying the price. Another interesting fact about blobfish is that they have become an internet sensation despite being so elusive. In 2013, the blobfish was voted the world's ugliest animal in a public poll organized by the Ugly Animal Preservation Society, a group dedicated to raising awareness about less conventionally attractive creatures. Since then, the blobfish has gained a sort of cult following, appearing in memes, cartoons, and even plush toys. While many people joke about the blobfish's unfortunate appearance, it's important to remember that this creature is a marvel of evolution. Its unique body structure allows it to survive in a world that would be completely uninhabitable for most other animals. It may not win any beauty contests, but it has adapted perfectly to one of the harshest environments on the planet. Another aspect worth considering is how the blobfish represents a much larger issue in marine biology. Deep-sea ecosystems are still some of the least explored regions on Earth, and each discovery often challenges our understanding of life. The blobfish is just one of many creatures that exist in a delicate balance within the ocean's depths. Studying these organisms helps scientists understand how life can persist under extreme conditions, providing insights that may even be useful in other scientific fields, such as space exploration or deep-sea medicine. Interestingly, The blobfish isn't the only deep-sea creature with an unusual body structure. Many fish that inhabit similar depths also have gelatinous or semi-gelatinous bodies, as having a rigid skeleton would be disadvantageous in such high-pressure environments. Some species, like the deep-sea snailfish, share a similar soft-bodied adaptation but remain less well known because they haven't been widely circulated in internet memes. The pressure at the depths where the blobfish lives is roughly 120 times greater than at the surface. For comparison, imagine stacking 1,200 basketballs on top of a single basketball. The one at the bottom would be experiencing similar compression forces. For a human to survive at these depths without specialized equipment, it would be impossible. Our bones would be crushed instantly. The blobfish, however, is built for this environment. There are theories that the blobfish's ancestors may have once been more traditionally structured fish that gradually evolved to become more gelatinous as they moved into deeper waters over millions of years. Evolutionary biology often favors traits that increase survival, and in the case of the blobfish, a jelly-like consistency was more beneficial than a firm skeleton. Conservation efforts for deep-sea creatures like the blobfish are challenging because they aren't widely studied and don't have the same level of public attention as more charismatic animals like dolphins or sea turtles. But that doesn't mean they're any less important. Every species plays a role in its ecosystem, and even a strange-looking deep-sea fish can have significant ecological value. Some researchers believe that with the advancement of deep-sea exploration technology, we may soon uncover more about how blobfish reproduce and how they interact with other species in their environment. There is even speculation that undiscovered species closely related to the blobfish may exist in even deeper, more extreme environments. To put things into perspective, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the ocean floor. It's estimated that over 80% of the world's oceans remain unexplored, meaning countless other strange and mysterious creatures like the blobfish may still be waiting to be discovered. At the end of the day, the blobfish serves as a reminder that nature doesn't care about human standards of beauty. What looks strange or unattractive to us is often a brilliant adaptation for survival. The blobfish may not be conventionally cute, but it is an incredible example of how life can thrive in even the most inhospitable conditions. So the next time you see an image of a blobfish looking sad and droopy, remember that in its real home, deep beneath the ocean's surface, it's perfectly suited for the life it leads. The world's ugliest animal might just be one of nature's most fascinating success stories. Animal number 2, the octopus. The alien genius of the deep. The octopus is one of the most bizarre, intelligent, and otherworldly creatures on our planet. With 8 flexible arms covered in hundreds of suckers, a body that can change color and texture in an instant, a beak that can crush bone, blue blood, 3 hearts, and a brain that extends throughout its entire body, the octopus seems more like an alien species than a creature of Earth. In fact, some scientists have even speculated, half-jokingly, that if life exists on other planets, it may resemble an octopus more than anything else. The octopus belongs to a group of mollusks called cephalopods, which also includes squids and cuttlefish. Unlike their shell-covered relatives such as clams and snails, octopuses have no external skeleton, making them incredibly flexible and capable of squeezing through openings as small as their beak, the only hard part of their body. This extreme flexibility allows them to escape predators, hide in tiny crevices, and even solve complex physical puzzles. What makes the octopus truly remarkable, however, is its intelligence. Octopuses are widely regarded as the smartest invertebrates on Earth. They can learn through observation, solve problems, remember solutions, and even display individual personalities. Some species have been observed using tools, a trait once thought to be exclusive to primates and a few birds. In captivity, octopuses have been known to unscrew jar lids to reach food inside, manipulate objects in their tanks, and even escape by opening tanks or squeezing through drainage pipes. There have been multiple reports of octopuses escaping aquariums, sneaking into neighboring tanks to steal fish, and returning to their own tanks as if nothing happened. One of the most fascinating aspects of octopus intelligence is their distributed nervous system. Unlike humans, whose brains control nearly all bodily functions, an octopus has a large portion of its neurons located in its arms. This means each arm can move and react independently, even if separated from the main body. In experiments, detached octopus arms have been observed continuing to move, grasp objects, and even respond to stimuli for some time after being severed. Their ability to change color and texture is another mind-blowing feature. Specialized cells called chromatophores, iridophores, and leucophores allow octopuses to instantly alter their appearance to blend into their surroundings, mimic other sea creatures, or communicate with one another. Unlike chameleons, which change color relatively slowly, an octopus can shift its entire coloration in a fraction of a second. Some species, like the mimic octopus, take this to the extreme by impersonating the shape and movement of other marine animals, such as venomous lionfish, sea snakes, or flatfish, to avoid predation. The octopus's camouflage ability is so advanced that military researchers have studied its skin structure to develop better stealth technology. Their skin is filled with tiny muscles that create different textures, making them appear rough like coral, bumpy like a rock, or smooth like sand. Some deep-sea octopuses even produce bioluminescent patterns, allowing them to vanish in the dark abyss of the ocean. Despite their intelligence, octopuses have one major biological disadvantage: a tragically short lifespan. Most species live for only a few years, and some, like the common octopus, Octopus vulgaris, survive for just 1 or 2 years. The most heartbreaking aspect of their life cycle is that octopuses die shortly after reproducing. Female octopuses lay thousands of eggs and spend weeks or even months guarding them, often refusing to eat in the process. Once the eggs hatch, the mother dies, and the tiny hatchlings are left to fend for themselves. Male octopuses don't fare much better. Many die shortly after mating, their biological purpose fulfilled. Another shocking ability of octopuses is their capacity for deception. They are notorious escape artists, capable of breaking out of seemingly secure enclosures. One famous case involved an octopus named Inky, who made headlines when he escaped from the National Aquarium of New Zealand. Inky managed to squeeze through a small gap in his tank, crawl across the floor, and slide down a drain pipe that led to the ocean. By the time his escape was discovered, he was already gone, vanishing into the sea like a true master of disguise. The more we study octopuses, the more we realize how little we know about them. They challenge everything we thought we understood about intelligence, problem-solving, and consciousness in non-mammalian animals. Some researchers even question whether octopuses could possess a form of consciousness that is entirely different from our own, an intelligence that operates in ways we can't fully comprehend. Because of their unique characteristics, some philosophers and biologists argue that octopuses are one of the few animals on Earth that might be classified as truly alien, not in the sense that they came from another planet, but in the sense that their minds function in ways completely different from anything we are used to. Unlike mammals and birds, which evolved intelligence through social cooperation and long lifespans, octopuses evolved intelligence despite their solitary nature and short lifespans. This raises deep questions about the nature of intelligence itself. Another eerie fact about octopuses is that their blood is blue. Unlike humans, who have iron-based hemoglobin that turns blood red, octopuses use a copper-based molecule called hemocyanin to transport oxygen. Hemocyanin is more efficient than hemoglobin in cold, low-oxygen environments like the deep sea, allowing octopuses to survive in a wide range of oceanic habitats. Octopuses have fascinated humans for centuries. In mythology, they have been depicted as monstrous sea creatures, like the kraken, capable of dragging entire ships beneath the waves. While real octopuses don't reach the massive sizes of their mythical counterparts, the giant Pacific octopus Enteroctopus doflani can grow up to 30 feet across and weigh over 600 pounds, making it the largest octopus species known to science. Despite their intelligence and adaptability, octopuses face growing threats from overfishing, climate change, and habitat destruction. Some species are already under pressure due to increased demand for octopus meat in global seafood markets. Scientists are also raising concerns about the ethics of keeping such intelligent animals in captivity, especially in research settings where they are subjected to experiments that would be considered unacceptable for many mammals. The more we learn about octopuses, the more they challenge our understanding of intelligence, evolution, and the limits of life on Earth. If we ever find alien life in the universe, there's a good chance it will resemble something like an octopus, an organism that defies expectations, adapts in unpredictable ways, and possesses a form of intelligence so different from our own that it forces us to rethink everything we know about sentience. The octopus is not just a sea creature, it's a glimpse into an entirely different way of thinking, one that may hold the key to understanding intelligence beyond the human experience. Animal number 3, the crocodile, the ancient predator that cheats death. Crocodiles are living dinosaurs. They have prowled the earth for over 200 million years, surviving mass extinctions, ice ages, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. These prehistoric reptiles have barely changed since the time of the dinosaurs, making them one of the most successful and deadly predators to ever exist. But what makes crocodiles so terrifying isn't just their crushing bite force, their stealthy ambush attacks, or their ability to take down almost any animal that wanders too close to the water's edge. It's their seemingly supernatural ability to survive against all odds. Crocodiles are one of the only creatures on Earth that have remained almost biologically unchanged for millions of years. Unlike mammals, which evolved constantly to adapt to new environments, crocodiles found a perfect formula for survival and stuck with it. Their powerful, armor-plated bodies, nightmarish jaws, and cold-blooded efficiency make them one of the deadliest predators in the animal kingdom. One of the most shocking facts about crocodiles is their jaw strength. They possess the most powerful bite force of any animal on the planet, up to 3,700 pounds per square inch (psi). To put that in perspective, a great white shark bites with about 4,000 psi, but that's in water, where resistance reduces the impact. A human bite, a measly 200 psi. The Nile crocodile, for example, has a bite force strong enough to crush bone, shatter turtle shells, and even split metal. But here's the strange part: while their jaws are nearly impossible to pry open, the muscles that open them are incredibly weak. A person could hold a crocodile's mouth shut with their bare hands. Not that you should ever try. Crocodiles are also nearly impossible to kill by normal means. Their scaly armor isn't just for show, it's covered in bony plates called osteoderms, which act like built-in body armor. This makes them almost bulletproof. There have been cases of crocodiles surviving gunshots, stab wounds, and even spears to the head. Some researchers believe that if a crocodile is seriously injured but still alive, its body can enter a near hibernation state to allow it to recover from wounds that would kill almost any other animal. But perhaps the most terrifying ability of crocodiles is their insane survival skills. They can go months without eating. As cold-blooded reptiles, they have an incredibly slow metabolism, allowing them to survive on very little food. In times of scarcity, a crocodile can enter a near comatose state, using barely any energy while waiting for its next meal. Some crocodiles have been documented fasting for over a year and still surviving. Crocodiles are also masters of patience. Unlike other predators that need to chase down their prey, crocodiles rely on ambush tactics. They can remain completely still for hours or even days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Their eyes and nostrils are positioned on the tops of their heads, allowing them to stay almost entirely submerged in water while remaining fully aware of their surroundings. When the moment comes, they explode into action with blinding speed, using their immense bite force to drag their victim into the water. Once they've latched onto their prey, they execute the infamous death roll, a maneuver where they spin violently in the water to tear their prey apart. What makes crocodiles even more terrifying is their ability to adapt. They have been found in environments ranging from saltwater coasts to freshwater rivers and even urban areas. Some species, like the saltwater crocodile, are known to travel hundreds of miles across the ocean, sometimes showing up on remote islands. There have even been reports of crocodiles sneaking into swimming pools, sewers, and flooded city streets. Another horrifying fact: crocodiles don't just kill for food. Some studies suggest they exhibit a form of strategic hunting behavior. Unlike sharks, which attack based on instinct, crocodiles have been observed working together to herd prey toward shallow water, where escape is nearly impossible. This suggests they might have a level of intelligence higher than previously thought. Crocodiles are also one of the few animals on Earth that can survive in extreme conditions. In freezing temperatures, they can enter a state called brumation, where they slow down their metabolism and remain motionless, sometimes with only their snouts sticking out of frozen water. They can also withstand extreme heat and drought, burying themselves in the mud to stay cool and conserve energy. One of the strangest things about crocodiles is their resistance to aging. Unlike most animals, which experience gradual organ failure and muscle loss as they age, crocodiles don't show normal signs of aging. They continue to grow larger and stronger throughout their lives. Some researchers believe that, in theory, crocodiles could live forever if they weren't killed by external factors like predators, disease, or starvation. In the wild, crocodiles have been recorded living for over 100 years. There are even reports of some individuals reaching 120 years or more. But perhaps the most horrifying fact of all is that crocodiles have been responsible for more human deaths than sharks, lions, or any other large predator. In places like Africa, Australia, and Southeast Asia, Nile and saltwater crocodiles are notorious for attacking people who wander too close to the water. Unlike sharks, which often bite humans by mistake, crocodiles deliberately hunt and kill people as part of their natural prey selection. Some crocodiles have even been known to return to the same location repeatedly, waiting for humans to come near. There are terrifying stories of crocodiles in history, such as the infamous Gustave, a massive Nile crocodile in Burundi said to have killed over 300 people. Despite numerous attempts to capture or kill him, Gustave has never been caught, and his legend continues to grow. Crocodiles have outlived dinosaurs, survived multiple mass extinctions, and continue to dominate their environments with an efficiency unmatched by almost any other predator. They are a reminder that nature doesn't need to evolve when it has already created the perfect killing machine. Animal number 4, the cassowary, the most dangerous bird on Earth. The cassowary isn't just any bird, it's a modern-day dinosaur with an attitude. Imagine a creature that looks like a prehistoric hybrid of an ostrich and a velociraptor, covered in shaggy black feathers, with piercing eyes, a razor-sharp claw on each foot, and the ability to run, jump, and swim with alarming agility. That's the cassowary. It's beautiful yet deadly, elusive yet feared, and without a doubt, the most dangerous bird on the planet. This flightless bird roams the dense rainforests of northern Australia, Papua New Guinea, and surrounding islands, hiding in the undergrowth like a feathered shadow. Despite their large size, cassowaries are remarkably stealthy, making them difficult to spot in the wild. But when they do reveal themselves, they command attention. With their striking blue and purple heads, vibrant red wattles, and towering frames, cassowaries look like they've walked straight out of prehistoric times. Cassowaries belong to a group of large, flightless birds called ratites, which includes ostriches, emus, and rhees. However, unlike their more docile relatives, cassowaries are known for their aggression and their ability to deliver lethal attacks. There are 3 species of cassowary: the southern cassowary, the northern cassowary, and the dwarf cassowary. The southern cassowary is the largest and most well-known, with adults standing between 5 and 6 feet tall, and some individuals reaching nearly 7 feet. They can weigh over 160 pounds, making them the second heaviest bird in the world, second only to the ostrich. But here's the thing. Unlike ostriches, which use their speed to flee from danger, cassowaries don't just run away, they fight. Cassowaries are equipped with some of the most fearsome weapons in the avian world. Each foot has 3 toes, with one of them bearing a dagger-like claw that can grow up to 5 inches long. This claw is as sharp as a knife, and can be used to slice through flesh, muscle, and even bone. A single well-placed kick can rip open a predator or a human. When a cassowary feels threatened, it doesn't hesitate to attack. First, it lowers its head, fluffs up its feathers, and emits deep, resonating booms, a sound that can be felt more than heard. Then, without warning, it charges. The bird can reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, leaping into the air with powerful legs and delivering a slashing kick that can leave deep wounds. There are multiple documented cases of cassowaries injuring and even killing humans. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in 1926 when a 16-year-old Australian boy named Philip McLean was attacked while trying to chase a cassowary away. The bird turned on him, slashing his neck with its claw. He died from his injuries shortly after. More recently, in 2019, a Florida man who kept a cassowary on his property was fatally attacked when he fell inside its enclosure. These aren't isolated incidents. Cassowary attacks happen every year, and while fatalities are rare, the injuries they cause can be severe. Despite their deadly reputation, cassowaries aren't mindless killing machines. In the wild, they prefer to avoid confrontation. They only attack when they feel cornered or when defending their territory. But if you make the mistake of provoking one, there's almost no escape. Unlike most large animals, cassowaries are eerily silent when they move. They can navigate the jungle with ghost-like stealth, vanishing into the undergrowth before you even realize they were there. This has led to them being called the ghosts of the forest. However, when they do make noise, it's something straight out of a horror movie. Cassowaries produce low-frequency booms that can travel long distances through the dense rainforest. These sounds are some of the lowest frequency vocalizations of any bird, and are often more felt than heard. It's believed that cassowaries use these booms to communicate with one another over vast distances. Another striking feature of the cassowary is its casque, a large helmet-like structure on top of its head. Scientists aren't entirely sure what the casque is for, but there are multiple theories. Some believe it helps the cassowary push through thick vegetation, acting as a natural battering ram. Others suggest it may play a role in sound resonance, amplifying their deep booming calls. There's also speculation that it could be used in dominance displays or as a sign of age and maturity, as cassowaries with larger casques tend to be older. Cassowaries are also remarkable swimmers. While most people think of them as jungle dwellers, they are just as comfortable in water as they are on land. They can cross wide rivers and even swim in the ocean, making them one of the few birds that can travel between islands. Despite their ferocity, cassowaries play a crucial role in their ecosystems. They are one of the most important seed dispersers in the rainforests of Australia and Papua New Guinea. Their diet consists mainly of fruit, and they consume hundreds of different plant species. Many of these plants rely on cassowaries to spread their seeds, as the seeds must pass through the bird's digestive system to germinate properly. Without cassowaries, the rainforest would struggle to regenerate, making them an essential part of their environment. Unfortunately, cassowaries are facing threats from habitat destruction and human activity. As rainforests are cleared for development, cassowaries lose their homes and are forced to venture into human settlements in search of food. This often leads to conflicts, as cassowaries become aggressive when they associate humans with food. In Australia, road signs warning about cassowaries are common, as vehicle collisions are one of the leading causes of cassowary deaths. Conservationists are working hard to protect these magnificent birds, but their future remains uncertain. Cassowaries are living reminders of a wilder, more untamed world, one where nature still holds the upper hand. They are powerful, mysterious, and undeniably dangerous, proving that not all birds are meant to be admired from up close. While they may not be as famous as lions or sharks, cassowaries deserve their place among nature's most formidable creatures. They are proof that some of Earth's most fascinating and fearsome animals still walk among us, hidden in the shadows of the rainforest, waiting to remind us that we are not always at the top of the food chain. Animal number 5, the honey badger, the most fearless creature on Earth. The honey badger is one of the most notoriously fearless creatures on Earth. But when you take a closer look at its survival strategies, it almost seems like evolution went too far. Normally, animals evolve traits that help them survive by making them more efficient, better at avoiding danger, and more successful at passing on their genes. But the honey badger, it seems like nature glitched out and cranked its aggression, pain tolerance, and stubbornness up to an extreme level. So much so that it sometimes works against its own survival. Think about most animals' survival strategies. Even the strongest predators, like lions and tigers, pick their battles carefully. They know that even a small injury can be life-threatening in the wild. But the honey badger, it doesn't care. It doesn't calculate risks. It doesn't think about consequences. Instead, it seems to have an attack first, figure it out later philosophy. If something threatens it, whether it's a predator, a human, or even a moving vehicle, the honey badger charges at it. This extreme overconfidence has actually been observed in the wild, honey badgers taking on lions, leopards, wild dogs, and hyenas, animals that could easily overpower them. And yet, more often than not, these larger predators actually back off. Why? Because the honey badger is so outrageously aggressive that even a lion doesn't want to deal with it. But here's the problem. This strategy works most of the time, but not always. Every now and then, a honey badger picks a fight it can't win. Maybe the predator is particularly desperate. Maybe it's sick of the honey badger's nonsense. maybe it's just too fast or too strong. And when that happens, the honey badger doesn't back down. It will keep fighting to the death, even when it's completely outmatched. There have been multiple cases of honey badgers being killed because they simply refused to retreat. Evolution made them too fearless, to the point where they often ignore their own best chances of survival. Then there's their insane resistance to venom. Honey badgers are one of the few animals that can eat some of the world's deadliest snakes, cobras, puff adders, black mambas, without immediately dying. Their bodies have evolved a resistance to venom that allows them to take a deadly bite and still recover. In some cases, they get bitten, pass out for a few hours, and then wake up like nothing happened. Sounds like a great adaptation, right? Well, not entirely. This ability makes them way too overconfident. Instead of avoiding venomous snakes, like most animals, honey badgers actively seek them out as food. They will go out of their way to hunt deadly snakes, sometimes engaging in long, brutal fights with creatures that could kill them. And here's the catch: while they are resistant to venom, they're not completely immune. A large enough dose or multiple bites can still kill them. But instead of avoiding the risk, they throw themselves into these situations over and over again, as if evolution made them too reckless for their own good. And speaking of reckless, let's talk about their eating habits. Honey badgers will eat anything. They're not just carnivores, they're opportunistic carnivores, meaning if it's even remotely edible, they'll eat it. Rotting meat, no problem. A snake still writhing in their jaws, sure. A beehive full of thousands of angry bees, bring it on. In fact, honey badgers are one of the few animals that actively raid beehives for honey, despite getting stung thousands of times in the process. Their skin is thick enough to handle some of it, but not all of it. They still experience pain, swelling, and irritation. And yet, they keep doing it. Why? Because evolution didn't give them the common sense to stop. Their high pain tolerance means they just push through the suffering, sometimes to the point of collapse. But their eating habits get even worse. Honey badgers sometimes eat rotten meat full of bacteria. While their digestive systems are tough, they're not invincible. There have been cases of honey badgers dying after eating spoiled food. They'll also scavenge from larger predators, even if that means challenging a leopard for its kill. Sometimes they get away with it, other times they get mauled. Again, it's like evolution forgot to program in the part of their brain that says, maybe don't do this. Then there's their intelligence. Honey badgers are shockingly smart for their size. They've been observed using tools, escaping enclosures, and solving puzzles that even primates struggle with. One famous honey badger in captivity managed to escape over and over again by stacking rocks, unlocking latches, and even using mud to disable electric fences. But here's the problem: instead of using their intelligence to stay safe, they use it to cause more problems. If a honey badger wants something, it doesn't give up. It will test every possible way to escape, sneak into places, steal food, or fight off threats. While this level of problem solving is impressive, it also makes them even more reckless. Instead of thinking maybe this is a bad idea, they just think, how can I do this anyway? And then there's their insane physical durability. Honey badgers have ridiculously thick, loose skin that makes them hard to kill. A predator can grab a honey badger, but because its skin is so loose, it can twist around inside its own skin and bite back. Even if something manages to sink its claws or teeth in, it's often not enough to stop them. This skin also makes them resistant to knives, arrows, and even some bullets. There have been cases of honey badgers surviving gunshots, walking away like nothing happened. This level of durability is insane, but again, it feeds into their reckless nature. Because they can survive brutal attacks, they don't bother avoiding them. They just charge headfirst into danger, assuming they'll be fine. So when you put all of this together, you get an animal that seems like it was designed to be too aggressive, too reckless, and too fearless. Evolution made the honey badger a tank, unstoppable, relentless, and incredibly difficult to kill. But it also made them so stubborn and confrontational that they often create their own problems. They pick unnecessary fights. They eat dangerous food. They take risks that don't need to be taken. And while this extreme approach to survival works most of the time, it also makes them prone to unnecessary suffering and death. In the grand scheme of evolution, the honey badger shouldn't exist in its current form. Most animals evolve toward efficiency and survival without taking constant self-destructive risks. But the honey badger, it's a glitch. It's a creature that seems to have evolved in spite of its own bad decisions, constantly pushing the limits of what a small carnivorous mammal should be capable of. And that's why the honey badger is one of the most extreme examples of evolution gone wrong. Animal number 6. The male seahorse, a strange case of evolution gone wrong. When we consider the concept of evolution, we generally think of it as a natural, efficient process designed to enhance the survival of a species. Males and females often have distinct roles in reproduction. Males tend to fight for dominance or attractiveness to ensure their genes are passed on, while females generally select the strongest or most genetically fit mate to guarantee the survival of their offspring. However, in the case of the male seahorse, evolution has done something that completely upends these basic rules, leading to one of the most perplexing and controversial reproductive strategies in the animal kingdom. So why is the seahorse's role in reproduction considered a strange anomaly of evolution? Well, in most species, the male simply fertilizes the eggs and moves on, leaving the heavy lifting of pregnancy and care to the female. But the male seahorse takes on an entirely different responsibility. He actually carries the eggs in a special brood pouch, nurturing the developing young until they're ready to be born. In fact, the male seahorse doesn't just deliver the sperm to the female to fertilize the eggs, he completely takes over the reproductive process, growing the embryos in his own body. This strange role reversal from the traditional evolutionary male-female roles seems almost wrong, almost counterproductive when you look at it through the lens of survival and natural selection. The female seahorse begins the process by transferring her eggs into the male's brood pouch, where the male then fertilizes them. This pouch functions as a kind of incubator, where the developing embryos receive nutrients from the male's body, much like a placenta in mammals. The male seahorse protects the eggs and maintains the proper environment for their development, providing oxygen and balancing the conditions inside the pouch. Essentially, he becomes both the mother and father in the reproduction of the offspring, a role that in most species is typically reserved for females. After some time, when the babies are fully developed, the male gives birth to the tiny, fully formed seahorse. On the surface, this may sound like a miraculous strategy that defies the conventional understanding of evolutionary biology, but when you dig deeper into the evolutionary implications of this bizarre reproductive system, it starts to raise more questions than it answers. How did this odd behavior evolve in the first place? Why would males evolve to become so heavily involved in reproduction when traditionally their role is to fertilize and move on? And does this unusual strategy actually enhance the survival of the species, or is it simply an example of nature getting it wrong? One of the major drawbacks of this reversed role in reproduction is the vulnerability it creates for the male seahorse. While females are able to retain mobility and protect themselves while carrying the eggs in their bodies, the male seahorse's brood pouch makes him far more susceptible to predators. He is essentially pregnant, unable to escape threats as easily as a female might. In fact, many male seahorses die during the pregnancy phase due to increased vulnerability to predators. This places a significant evolutionary burden on males, who are not only forced to carry the young but are also exposed to greater risk in doing so. In the grand scheme of survival, this added vulnerability could be considered a significant evolutionary cost. Moreover, the male seahorse doesn't always select the healthiest or most genetically compatible mates. In some cases, a male may end up carrying the eggs of multiple females. This can lead to a complex and inefficient genetic situation in which the male is caring for offspring that are genetically unrelated. The result, the babies that he nurtures may not necessarily be the fittest or strongest, reducing the overall genetic health of the species. In many species, a male's job is to ensure that his genes are passed on through successful reproduction with a healthy female. Yet in the case of the seahorse, his offspring could potentially come from several different mothers, thus spreading his resources thin and increasing the risk of genetic complications. Additionally, while the male seahorse has evolved to carry eggs inside him for a specific period of time, his brood pouch can only hold a limited number of embryos. This limits the number of offspring a single male can carry at once. In species with traditional reproductive systems, females may lay hundreds or even thousands of eggs, ensuring a higher likelihood that at least some of the offspring will survive to adulthood. In contrast, the male seahorse can only care for a small batch of eggs at a time, making it harder for the species as a whole to produce large numbers of offspring quickly. Despite these challenges, the male seahorse's method of reproduction hasn't just been a fluke. It's an effective strategy that has enabled seahorses to survive for millions of years. Evolution has, in some sense, backed this unusual behavior, since seahorses are still thriving in oceans across the world. The question is, Does this mean that evolution is perfect, or could it be an example of how evolution sometimes makes odd and seemingly inefficient decisions? Interestingly, the male seahorse's role in reproduction can be seen as both an advantage and a disadvantage, depending on the specific environmental conditions. For instance, because seahorses tend to live in environments that can be challenging, with predators lurking and limited resources, it could be beneficial for the males to take on a larger role in nurturing their offspring. By carrying the eggs inside his pouch, the male seahorse can offer more protection, ensuring that the babies develop in a stable, controlled environment. In contrast, many other species leave their eggs exposed in the open, risking predation from a variety of threats. This might seem counterintuitive, but in certain situations, the male seahorse's pregnancy could increase the survival rate of the species. However, this comes at a high cost. Males put themselves at greater risk for predation and can only carry a small number of eggs at a time. If environmental conditions become less stable or more competitive, the drawbacks of this reproductive strategy might become more pronounced. So, does this mean that evolution has gone wrong in the case of the seahorse? The answer is more complex than a simple yes or no. While it's clear that the male seahorse's pregnancy comes with risks and challenges that seem at odds with the typical patterns of natural selection, it's also true that this strange evolutionary trait has allowed seahorses to survive in their niche. Evolution doesn't always create perfectly efficient solutions, but it does tend to favor strategies that work in specific environments, even if they seem unusual or inefficient by broader standards. In the case of the male seahorse, evolution has produced a reproductive system that, while odd, works well enough to ensure the survival of the species. It's a reminder that evolution isn't always about creating the most straightforward or perfect strategies, but rather about finding solutions that allow organisms to thrive in their particular environment. The male seahorse's role reversal may seem like a mistake, but in the context of seahorse survival, it's simply an example of evolution's unpredictable and sometimes baffling nature. In the end, the male seahorse's unique and seemingly backward role in reproduction is just one of many strange and wonderful outcomes of evolutionary processes. It's a reminder that evolution is not always about creating efficiency or simplicity, it's about adapting to the environment in ways that help organisms survive, even if those adaptations seem odd or wrong from our perspective. The male seahorse may have ended up taking on the traditional maternal role in reproduction, but somehow, against all odds, it's worked for them for millions of years. And who knows what other evolutionary surprises lie in wait for us to discover. Animal number 7. The platypus. A bizarre example of evolution gone wrong. The platypus is undoubtedly one of the strangest animals on the planet. Native to Australia, this unique creature has become an icon of the oddities found in nature. But what makes the platypus stand out isn't just its peculiar appearance. Its very existence raises fascinating questions about the process of evolution. It's often referred to as one of the few examples where evolution seems to have gone wrong, creating an animal that doesn't quite fit into the categories we expect. At first glance, the platypus seems like an evolutionary puzzle, a confusing mix of traits from different animal groups. It has the body of an otter, the bill of a duck, and the feet of an amphibian. It even lays eggs, a trait almost entirely reserved for reptiles, but nurses its young like mammals. This unusual combination of characteristics makes it difficult for scientists to classify the platypus neatly into one category or another. But despite its bizarre combination of features, the platypus has survived and thrived for millions of years. However, the way it carries out its life and functions in its environment may not seem entirely correct from an evolutionary standpoint. Let's start with its most famous characteristic, the bill. The platypus is a mammal, but it has a duck-like bill, which is not only odd-looking, but serves a very different function from that of most mammals. The bill is highly sensitive and contains thousands of electroreceptors, allowing the platypus to detect electrical signals generated by the movements of its prey. This feature is especially important when the platypus hunts underwater, as it dives to forage for invertebrates such as worms, crustaceans, and insect larvae. But despite its effectiveness, the bill is an evolutionary oddity. Mammals generally don't have bills, and this trait, more commonly seen in birds, doesn't quite fit the typical blueprint for mammalian development. Why then did the platypus evolve with such an unconventional trait? One theory is that the bill evolved as a specialized tool to help the platypus hunt in its particular environment. By using the bill to detect electrical fields, the platypus can find prey even when it's swimming in murky water and unable to rely on sight. It's a highly effective hunting technique that allows the platypus to find food in places where other animals would struggle. However, this adaptation also raises the question of why mammals, in general, didn't evolve such a specialized hunting tool. The fact that only the platypus and a few other closely related species possess this adaptation suggests that evolution took an unexpected turn in this case. Instead of evolving standard mammalian features, the platypus developed something much more unusual. Then there's the platypus's method of reproduction, which is equally baffling. As mammals, platypuses are expected to give birth to live young, like most of their relatives. But instead, the female platypus lays eggs, a reproductive method more commonly associated with reptiles. After laying the eggs, the female incubates them by curling her body around them to keep them warm. When the eggs hatch, the baby platypuses, known as puggles, are fed by their mother's milk. However, unlike most mammals, the platypus does not have teats. Instead, the mother secretes milk from mammary glands, which is absorbed through the skin, an odd and inefficient method of nourishing her young. This egg-laying trait is considered one of the most primitive features of the platypus, and is one of the reasons why it is often referred to as a living fossil. But it also represents an example of how evolution can take unexpected and seemingly illogical turns. The platypus seems to have taken a step backward in terms of reproductive advancement, reverting to an ancient mode of reproduction that most mammals abandoned millions of years ago. And yet, despite this seemingly primitive characteristic, the platypus has managed to thrive in its environment. This raises the intriguing question, could evolution have gotten it wrong, or is the platypus's reproductive method simply another adaptation that happens to be perfectly suited for its lifestyle? Another remarkable, yet baffling feature of the platypus is its venom. While most mammals don't produce venom, the male platypus has a spur on its hind legs capable of delivering a painful venomous sting. The venom is not lethal to humans, but can cause extreme pain and swelling. This feature is yet another example of how the platypus doesn't fit neatly into any of the standard evolutionary molds. Its venomous spur is more commonly found in reptiles and amphibians, raising the question of why a mammal would evolve such a feature. The venom is used primarily in territorial disputes between males, and though it doesn't serve the same defensive purpose as venom in other species, it is still an extraordinary feature for a mammal. Once again, the platypus seems to defy expectations, and could be considered an anomaly in evolutionary terms. Despite these oddities, the platypus has survived and adapted to its environment for over 100 million years. It lives in freshwater rivers, lakes, and streams, primarily in Australia, and plays a crucial role in its ecosystem. It's a skilled hunter, capable of diving underwater for extended periods, and its unique abilities, such as its electroception, allow it to thrive in its niche. The fact that it has been able to survive for so long, despite its seemingly strange and inefficient characteristics, speaks to the idea that evolution isn't necessarily about getting everything right. Instead, it's about survival, adaptation, and finding ways to function in a particular environment. The platypus serves as a reminder that evolution isn't a perfect process, it's one of trial and error. It's messy, unpredictable, and often produces strange results. While the platypus's unique features may seem like mistakes or evolutionary missteps, they have actually allowed it to carve out a successful niche for itself. It's a reminder that what might appear as a wrong or inefficient adaptation might be just what's needed for survival in a particular environment. In conclusion, the platypus is one of nature's most fascinating and perplexing examples of evolution's unpredictable nature. Its strange mix of characteristics, its duck-like bill, egg-laying reproduction, and venomous spur seem to contradict the traditional rules of evolutionary biology. But despite its oddities, the platypus has endured for millions of years, proving that evolution doesn't always follow a straight line. It's a living example of how sometimes evolution can seem to go wrong, but still produce a creature that thrives against all odds. The platypus is a testament to the strange and wonderful outcomes that evolution can sometimes create. Animal number 8, the sloth, a surprising example of evolutionary quirks. The sloth, a seemingly lazy and slow-moving mammal, is an animal that often raises eyebrows when it comes to discussions about evolution. Known for its lethargic pace and its ability to spend nearly its entire life hanging upside down from trees, the sloth might appear to be an evolutionary failure. Its sluggishness and lack of agility in comparison to other animals might make it seem like evolution got it wrong. But surprisingly, the sloth's unique traits have allowed it to thrive in its environment. In fact, the sloth's specialized traits are a result of an evolutionary process that, while strange and slow, has been remarkably effective. One of the most famous characteristics of the sloth is its slow pace. It moves so slowly that algae and fungi often grow on its fur, turning it a greenish hue. This slow movement has earned the sloth a reputation for being one of the laziest creatures on Earth. But there's more to its sluggish behavior than meets the eye. Evolutionarily speaking, sloths are not lazy. They've adapted to be slow for very specific survival reasons. The sloth's slow movement is tied to its metabolic rate. Unlike many other animals that burn energy quickly and require constant foraging for food, the sloth has a very low metabolic rate. This means that it needs very little food to sustain itself, and it doesn't have to expend much energy on daily activities. By moving slowly and conserving energy, the sloth is able to survive on a diet of low-nutrient food, such as leaves, which are difficult to digest and don't provide much caloric value. The sloth's slow lifestyle is in fact an energy-efficient survival strategy, allowing it to thrive on a diet that would not be sufficient for other, more active animals. But this slow pace also comes with its drawbacks. The sloth's sluggishness makes it highly vulnerable to predators, especially in the dense rainforests where it resides. Its main line of defense is its ability to remain motionless for long periods of time, blending into the trees to avoid detection. The green algae growing on its fur helps camouflage the sloth, making it harder for predators to spot it. Additionally, sloths spend most of their lives in the treetops, where they are less likely to encounter ground-dwelling predators like jaguars or humans. This survival strategy relies heavily on the sloth's ability to avoid predators rather than outfight or outrun them. It's a curious example of evolution, where the animal's best chance of survival is not through speed, strength, or aggressive behavior, but rather through an extreme form of passivity and stillness. In a world where speed and agility are often considered essential traits for survival, the sloth's choice to be slow, low energy, and invisible is an unconventional and highly effective approach to life. Another fascinating aspect of the sloth is its skeletal structure. While sloths are often thought of as being weak or uncoordinated, their bodies are actually adapted for a life spent hanging upside down. Their long, curved claws are perfect for clinging to tree branches, and their arms are much longer than their legs, allowing them to reach out and grab branches with ease. This adaptation makes them well suited for life in the treetops, where they spend the majority of their time. But the sloth's upright posture, hanging from branches with its claws, also has interesting evolutionary implications. The sloth's body is incredibly well suited for a slow, energy-conserving lifestyle, but it has some unusual features that make it somewhat of an evolutionary anomaly. For example, its internal organs are arranged in a way that helps it hang upside down. Sloths have an elongated digestive system that is designed to maximize nutrient absorption from their plant-based diet. Their large stomachs can hold the massive amount of leaves they eat, allowing them to digest food over the course of several days. But this unusual digestive system also means that the sloth's body is not as efficient as that of other animals when it comes to processing food quickly. Sloths also have a very slow digestion rate, sometimes taking up to a month to fully digest their meals. This slow digestion process is in keeping with their overall sluggish lifestyle. But despite their slow-moving ways, sloths have been able to adapt and survive in their specific environment for millions of years. Their low-energy diet, unique physical adaptations, and reliance on camouflage have helped them evade predators and thrive in the rainforest ecosystem. However, their evolutionary strategy is far from perfect. The sloth's slow movement and awkwardness on the ground make it easy prey for predators, and its dependence on a diet of leaves makes it vulnerable to changes in the environment that affect the availability of food. But in the grand scheme of evolution, these quirks have allowed the sloth to occupy a very specific ecological niche, one where its odd traits provide an advantage, despite seeming to defy evolutionary expectations. The sloths also have one of the longest lifespans in the animal kingdom for their size, living up to 30 years or more in the wild. Their slow pace and energy-efficient lifestyle allow them to conserve resources and avoid the stresses that might shorten the lives of more active animals. Interestingly, though the sloth is often depicted as weak and fragile, it is actually quite resilient in its natural habitat. Despite the risks associated with being slow and vulnerable, the sloth has survived in one of the most competitive and diverse ecosystems in the world, the tropical rainforest. Its evolutionary adaptations, though unusual, have helped it carve out a niche that has ensured its survival for millions of years. However, the sloth's reliance on the forest canopy and its slow movement make it particularly vulnerable to habitat loss. As deforestation continues to affect rainforests around the world, the sloth's habitat is increasingly at risk. This highlights a fascinating aspect of evolution. The animals that have adapted to highly specialized niches may struggle to survive when those niches are altered by environmental changes. Despite the sloth's long evolutionary history, it now faces new challenges that its slow pace and low-energy lifestyle are ill-equipped to handle. This is a reminder that even the most perfectly adapted creatures can face difficulties in a rapidly changing world. In conclusion, the sloth is a fascinating example of how evolution can work in strange and unexpected ways. Its slow pace, low-energy lifestyle and reliance on camouflage might seem like evolutionary mistakes, but these traits have allowed the sloth to thrive in its environment for millions of years. The sloth shows that evolution doesn't always follow a straightforward or predictable path. Sometimes, an organism's quirks and apparent inefficiencies can be the very traits that make it successful. While the sloth may not fit into the typical mold of an active, fast-moving predator, its unique evolutionary strategy has allowed it to survive and adapt to life in the trees. The sloth is a reminder that in nature, sometimes the slow and steady really do win the race. Animal number 9. The ii, a nightmarish creature with a surprisingly efficient survival strategy. The ii is a creature that occupies a truly unique and specialized niche within the animal kingdom. Endemic to the rainforests of Madagascar, this nocturnal primate has long been a subject of myth, fear, and fascination. It has a reputation that borders on the eerie, often regarded as an omen of bad luck in Malagasy culture. In fact, local legends have even claimed that encountering an ii can bring death, with some believing that it possesses the power to curse people. These superstitions, though far from the reality of the creature's nature, highlight the profound mystery that surrounds this strange mammal. But despite its otherworldly appearance and the myths that have followed it, the ii is far from being a malevolent force. It is a highly specialized survivor in one of the most biologically diverse ecosystems on Earth. With its large glowing eyes, oversized ears, and particularly long thin middle finger, the ii looks anything but ordinary. Its appearance alone is enough to make most people stop and stare in disbelief. But what makes the ii so remarkable is not just its unsettling features, but the way these features are adapted for one of the most fascinating survival strategies found in the animal kingdom. The ii's most striking trait is its long middle finger, which extends much longer than any of its other digits. This peculiar finger is the result of a specialized evolutionary adaptation that serves a very specific purpose: feeding. The ii has evolved a unique method of foraging that relies on tapping on tree bark in search of insects hiding inside. This process, known as percussive foraging, involves the ii rhythmically tapping the bark with its finger while listening for the distinctive hollow sounds that signal the presence of a grub or larvae underneath. Once it detects the hollowed-out space, the ii uses its long finger to reach inside and extract the larvae, which is a primary food source. This highly specialized form of feeding is not only fascinating but also an incredible example of evolutionary ingenuity. While many animals use their teeth, claws, or other body parts to hunt or forage for food, the ii's reliance on its elongated middle finger is unparalleled. It's a unique adaptation that sets the ii apart from other primates and animals in general. However, the ii's survival strategy is not without its drawbacks. Because its food source is primarily composed of insect larvae hidden in trees, the ii is entirely dependent on the availability of healthy living trees. It relies on forests that are rich with the types of trees that house the insects it depends on for sustenance. As a result, the aye-aye's fate is tightly bound to the health of Madagascar's rainforests. If these forests were to suffer widespread deforestation, the aye-aye could lose its main food source and face extinction. The role that the aye-aye's finger plays in its survival cannot be overstated. Its long, slender digit is a prime example of how evolution works in unexpected ways. The specialized finger allows the aye-aye to access a food source that would otherwise be off-limits to many other creatures. It's an adaptation that showcases nature's ingenuity, as the aye-aye has managed to find a way to thrive in an environment where other animals might struggle to survive. However, this highly specific adaptation also poses a risk. The aye-aye is incredibly vulnerable to changes in its environment. The forest ecosystems it depends on are fragile, and with the increasing rates of deforestation in Madagascar, the aye-aye's survival is being threatened. As humans continue to encroach on the forests, the aye-aye's habitat shrinks, and its ability to find food becomes increasingly difficult. Moreover, the aye-aye's peculiar appearance has also led to misconceptions and fear. In Madagascar, where it is native, the aye-aye has been linked to superstition. Its strange elongated finger and large eerie eyes have earned it a reputation as a harbinger of doom. The aye-aye's nocturnal nature, combined with its unconventional physical features, has only served to fuel the perception that it is a creature of the night, associated with death or evil. This fear has led to some people killing aye-ayes on sight, believing that they bring misfortune. Such myths have caused the species to suffer, despite the fact that the aye-aye poses no danger to humans at all. It is an unfortunate example of how fear of the unknown can lead to the destruction of a species, even one as specialized and rare as the aye-aye. The aye-aye is also an incredibly solitary animal. Unlike many other primates that live in social groups, the aye-aye prefers to live alone, coming together only to mate. This solitary lifestyle, while perhaps providing the aye-aye with more freedom to roam its environment and find food, also means it has fewer opportunities to interact with others of its species. This isolation is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it reduces competition for food, as the aye-aye has its own set of trees to forage, but on the other hand, it limits the aye-aye's ability to mate, potentially making it harder for the species to maintain a healthy population. The aye-aye's solitary nature also makes it more vulnerable to the pressures of habitat destruction, as it doesn't have the support of a social group to help it adapt to changes in its environment. In addition to its solitary lifestyle, the aye-aye's nocturnal behavior further complicates its survival. Its large eyes are specially adapted for night vision, allowing it to see in the darkness of the Malagasy rainforest. This adaptation helps the aye-aye navigate the dense forest floor in search of food and avoid larger predators. However, it also means that the aye-aye is rarely seen during the day, making it a difficult animal to study. Most of what we know about the aye-aye comes from nocturnal observations and the work of dedicated researchers who brave the forest's dense underbrush to learn more about this elusive creature. Despite this, the aye-aye remains largely enigmatic, with many aspects of its life still a mystery. While the aye-aye has adapted incredibly well to its nocturnal and solitary lifestyle, it faces mounting threats that could ultimately threaten its existence. Deforestation, human encroachment, and the destruction of its natural habitat have placed this unique creature at risk. The aye-aye depends on a delicate balance of ecological factors, from the trees it feeds on to the insects that inhabit them. As Madagascar's forests continue to shrink, so too does the aye-aye's ability to find food and shelter, leading to the potential for population decline. In conclusion, the aye-aye is an extraordinary example of evolutionary specialization. Its long, thin middle finger, perfectly adapted for foraging, allows it to survive in a niche that few other animals can access. However, this extreme specialization also makes it vulnerable to changes in its environment, particularly as Madagascar's rainforests continue to be destroyed. The aye-aye's strange appearance and solitary lifestyle only add to the complexity of its survival story. While it may be an eerie sight to some, the aye-aye is simply a product of nature's creative brilliance, a creature that has evolved to thrive in a very specific ecological niche. but one that now faces the challenge of survival in an increasingly hostile world. Understood. I'll expand the script significantly to meet your request for a much longer piece, with no subheadings and a more detailed exploration of the kakapo and how its evolution has led to its current struggle. Animal number 10, the kakapo, the flightless parrot that can't escape danger. The kakapo, a flightless parrot from New Zealand, is a bird that embodies how evolution, while usually a powerful force for species survival, can sometimes go terribly wrong. The kakapo's unique evolution has made it one of the most curious and tragic animals on the planet. At first glance, it may seem like a successful case of adaptation to its environment, but when viewed through the lens of modern challenges, it quickly becomes clear that the kakapo's evolutionary traits have set it up for near extinction. The kakapo's evolution is rooted in New Zealand's lack of terrestrial mammals when the bird first evolved. This isolated island ecosystem created a perfect environment for birds to thrive. The lack of predators allowed species like the kakapo to evolve in unique ways. This parrot's most notable feature is its inability to fly. In a world without predators, there was no real need for the kakapo to develop flight. Instead, it adapted to living on the ground, relying on camouflage and its ability to blend into its surroundings to avoid danger. The kakapo became a relatively slow-moving, nocturnal bird that fed primarily on native plants and seeds, carving out a peaceful niche for itself in the rich forests of New Zealand. The bird's distinctive soft feathers, often compared to those of an owl, provided it with excellent camouflage against the forest floor, where it spent most of its time. This adaptive trait worked perfectly in the absence of mammalian predators. The kakapo did not have to flee from danger, as it had no reason to fear the other creatures living on the island. It lived a life where survival didn't depend on speed or flight, but instead on its ability to stay hidden and to avoid predators that simply didn't exist in its world. However, everything changed when humans arrived in New Zealand. While humans brought with them crops, tools, and new ways of life, they also introduced a group of predators that had never been seen on the islands before. These included rats, stoats, and weasels, all of which were quick to exploit the kakapo's vulnerabilities. As mammals from the mainland began to spread across New Zealand, the birds were caught off guard. The kakapo, so accustomed to living in a predator-free environment, had no mechanisms to deal with these threats. Unlike other birds that had evolved the ability to flee from danger, the kakapo's evolution left it defenseless against the new predators. The bird was slow, its movements deliberate, and it lacked any flight capability. It was an easy target for the newly introduced predators. The slow-moving kakapo couldn't outrun the rats, nor could it take to the air to escape from weasels and stoats. These mammals, often nocturnal like the kakapo, preyed on the unsuspecting birds, decimating their populations. What makes this even more tragic is that the kakapo didn't even have the defense mechanisms other birds might rely on, such as aggressive behaviors, sharp talons, or even a strong beak. Instead, the kakapo's defense strategy was purely based on camouflage. But with the presence of invasive species, camouflage alone wasn't enough to ensure survival. Without flight, speed, or any significant defensive mechanisms, the kakapo was no match for the predators that now roamed freely throughout the forests of New Zealand. The damage done to the kakapo population by these predators was swift and brutal. As the human-introduced species began to thrive, the kakapo's numbers plummeted. What was once a thriving population of these flightless parrots quickly dwindled to nearly nothing. Despite the bird's ability to blend in with its environment, the ever-growing threat from predators meant that more and more kakapos were lost to predation. And then, there's the kakapo's reproduction habits, which also made survival difficult. Kakapos have a notoriously low reproductive rate, which made it harder for the species to bounce back from population declines. Female kakapos are fertile only every 2 to 4 years, a far cry from other bird species that breed annually. The kakapo's low reproduction rate meant that even when the bird managed to avoid predators, its numbers remained low because they simply couldn't replace themselves fast enough. In addition to this, the kakapo's slow maturation rate meant that young birds weren't able to contribute to the population until they were several years old. This slow rate of reproduction and maturation was fine when the bird lived in a stable predator-free environment, but it became a critical disadvantage in the face of rapidly changing conditions. The kakapo's breeding behavior also put it at a disadvantage. During mating season, Males gather in leks, where they compete for the attention of females by calling loudly. While this behavior may have been successful in the absence of predators, it made the kakapos an easy target. The calls, which are loud and distinctive, can be heard from miles away, and the male bird's persistence in staying in one place made them particularly vulnerable. For an animal that relies on its stealth and camouflage to avoid predators, the loud, obvious calls were a major flaw. The kakapos' mating calls, once a symbol of their strength and dominance, became a death sentence in a world suddenly filled with predators. As the numbers of kakapos dwindled, conservation efforts were made to try to save the species. But even these efforts, while well-meaning, highlight how human activity and the introduction of new predators had drastically altered the kakapos' chances of survival. Today, the kakapo is one of the rarest birds in the world, with only a few dozen individuals remaining. Conservationists have gone to extreme lengths to save the species, including capturing every remaining kakapo and relocating them to predator-free islands, where they are carefully monitored and bred in captivity. The last few kakapos are essentially living in a controlled environment, where every aspect of their survival is managed by humans. The story of the kakapo is a poignant reminder of how evolution doesn't always have a perfect answer to every challenge. What may have been an adaptive trait in one environment, flightlessness, a reliance on camouflage and slow movement, turned out to be fatal in the face of sudden and dramatic environmental changes. The sudden introduction of predators to the New Zealand ecosystem was an event the kakapo had no way of preparing for, and the bird's lack of defenses made it an easy target. Moreover, the kakapo's reproductive habits, which were suited to a peaceful, stable environment, became a serious liability in the face of increasing threats. The combination of slow reproduction, slow maturation, and an inability to adapt quickly to new threats meant that the kakapo simply couldn't keep up with the pressures placed on it by invasive species. What was once a perfectly suited strategy for survival in an isolated predator-free environment became a recipe for extinction when that environment was suddenly upended by human activity. The kakapo's plight serves as an important lesson about the consequences of introducing non-native species into fragile ecosystems. The bird's story also raises important questions about conservation and how species can adapt or fail to adapt to the changing world. While humans have made significant strides in trying to save the kakapo, the species' survival remains uncertain, as it is still so vulnerable to the ever-present threats of climate change and human activity. Ultimately, the kakapo stands as a symbol of the delicate balance of nature and the role that evolution plays in shaping a species. While evolution created a bird perfectly adapted to a world without predators, it also left the kakapo ill-equipped to deal with the challenges of a rapidly changing environment. The flightless parrot that once thrived in New Zealand now faces a future that is uncertain and fragile, and its fate rests in the hands of conservationists who are working to protect the last remnants of this once thriving species. The story of the kakapo is a reminder that evolution is not a perfect process, and that even the most seemingly well-adapted creatures can find themselves in dire straits when the conditions of their environment change. As the world continues to face ecological challenges, the kakapo's story should serve as a cautionary tale about the unpredictable consequences of human actions and the importance of preserving the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. Animal number 11, the naked mole rat. A creature that defies evolution's rules. The naked mole rat, a bizarre creature found in parts of East Africa, is a perfect example of how evolution can sometimes take a path that seems to defy common sense. With its wrinkled, hairless body, protruding teeth, and subterranean lifestyle, the naked mole rat may look more like an alien than an animal that evolved to survive in nature. Yet, despite its peculiar appearance and behavior, it is a product of millions of years of evolution, albeit one that seems to have taken a wrong turn along the way. The naked mole rat's most famous feature is its lack of fur. At first glance, this seems like an incredibly bad evolutionary choice for an animal that lives in burrows and tunnels in the wild. Typically, fur serves a variety of important functions for mammals. It keeps them warm, provides camouflage, and even plays a role in sensory perception. But the naked mole rat has none of these advantages. Its furless body seems like a disadvantage in almost every way, especially given the underground environment in which it lives. Yet, for the naked mole rat, this lack of fur is just one of the many ways in which its evolution has taken an unexpected turn. Naked mole rats live in complex underground burrow systems where they spend almost their entire lives in darkness. The absence of fur might seem strange, but in this subterranean world, it actually works in their favor. Underground, temperatures are more stable, so the naked mole rat doesn't need to worry about keeping warm in the same way that surface-dwelling animals do. The lack of fur also helps them move more easily through narrow tunnels and prevents any entanglements in the soil. Furthermore, these rats don't need to worry about camouflage, as the underground world offers them complete protection from predators, so fur would serve little purpose in their specific environment. But the naked mole rat's evolutionary quirks don't end with its lack of fur. The creature's social structure is another feature that seems to defy typical mammalian evolution. Unlike most mammals, naked mole rats live in highly organized colonies with a strict hierarchy. The colony is led by a single queen, who is the only female allowed to breed. This social system is highly unusual for mammals, as most species allow females to breed freely. In a naked mole rat colony, only the queen mates, and her dominance is maintained through aggressive behavior toward other females. This type of social structure, which is more akin to that of ants or termites, might seem like an evolutionary dead end for a species that relies on such rigid control. Yet, despite these seemingly impractical features, the naked mole rat has been successful in its niche. It has been thriving in its subterranean world for millions of years, surviving on a diet of underground parts of plants like roots and tubers. Their incredible adaptability to this niche is also reflected in their resistance to cancer, which is highly unusual for a mammal. Naked mole rats are nearly immune to the diseases that often plague other species, and their ability to live in such large social groups without contracting illnesses is a testament to how their evolution has allowed them to thrive in a challenging and harsh environment. Even more intriguing is their ability to live in near-complete darkness without developing the typical weaknesses that most animals in similar environments might develop. While other mammals that live in the dark often have enlarged eyes or other sensory adaptations, naked mole rats have tiny, underdeveloped eyes. Instead of relying on vision, they use their keen sense of touch and smell to navigate the tunnels and communicate with others in the colony. This lack of reliance on sight is an example of how evolution has molded the naked mole rat into an efficient underground creature, one that has mastered the art of living in a dark, confined, and isolated world. Despite these incredible abilities, the naked mole rat's evolution is far from perfect. Its unusual body plan, which includes its hairless skin and odd proportions, makes it highly vulnerable to predators outside of its burrow. On the surface, the naked mole rat would likely be an easy meal for many predators, especially birds of prey or carnivorous mammals. But thanks to its underground existence, the naked mole rat has evolved to be highly specialized for its subterranean niche, relying on its burrows for safety. The problem, however, is that the world outside of their burrows is constantly changing. Human development and agriculture continue to encroach on their habitats, destroying the natural environments in which they thrive. As humans continue to expand into new territories, the naked mole rat's environment becomes increasingly fragmented, and their survival is threatened. The species is now confined to a smaller and smaller area of East Africa, with its continued existence dependent on the preservation of the habitats that allow it to survive. In addition, their highly specialized way of life comes with a cost. While naked mole rats are incredibly well adapted to their subterranean existence, they are poorly equipped to handle environmental changes. Unlike other species that can adapt to a variety of habitats, naked mole rats have evolved to thrive in very specific conditions. If these conditions change due to climate shifts or human intervention, the naked mole rat may struggle to adapt, which could lead to population declines or even extinction. Naked mole rats are also highly dependent on their colonies, and their survival is closely tied to the social structure that exists within them. If something were to happen to the colony's queen, the entire colony could collapse, as no other female would be able to reproduce. This fragile social system makes them highly vulnerable to disturbances, and any change that disrupts the stability of their colonies could have devastating consequences for the species. In many ways, the naked mole rat is a living example of how evolution can go wrong. Its highly specialized adaptations, which make it perfectly suited to its underground lifestyle, are also its greatest weaknesses. The lack of fur, the strange social structure, and the inability to thrive outside of its specific habitat make the naked mole rat a creature that has evolved to survive in one very particular environment, but not necessarily the most adaptable species in the face of a rapidly changing world. While the naked mole rat has shown an incredible ability to thrive in its unique ecological niche, the pressures of a changing environment, human encroachment, and its highly specialized biology make it one of the more precarious species on the planet. In this way, the naked mole rat's evolutionary path serves as a cautionary tale that even the most peculiar and seemingly well-adapted species may not be immune to the unpredictable forces of evolution, and that survival in the wild often comes with trade-offs that might be difficult to overcome when environmental conditions change. Animal number 12, the axolotl, a creature that can literally regrow its body. The axolotl, a fascinating amphibian native to the lakes of central Mexico, is one of the most extraordinary creatures on Earth. With its wide, gaping smile, feathery gills that extend from the sides of its head, and its ability to regenerate almost any part of its body, it seems almost too good to be true. But the axolotl, often referred to as the Mexican walking fish, isn't actually a fish at all. It's an amphibian that belongs to a group called salamanders. What makes it truly special, however, is not just its appearance but its incredible ability to regenerate limbs, spinal cord, heart tissue, and even parts of its brain, all with remarkable efficiency. Evolutionarily speaking, the axolotl seems to have made some strange choices. Unlike most amphibians that undergo metamorphosis, starting as tadpoles and eventually transitioning into land-dwelling adults, the axolotl remains in its aquatic larval form throughout its entire life. This trait is known as neoteny, and it's a fascinating twist on the usual course of development. Instead of growing into a terrestrial adult like other salamanders, the axolotl keeps its gills and stays in the water, never fully transitioning to a land-dwelling stage. This life cycle may seem odd, as most animals undergo significant changes as they mature. The axolotl, however, remains in its juvenile form, which is a major departure from the evolutionary path most amphibians follow. But it's not just the axolotl's decision to remain in the aquatic stage that seems strange from an evolutionary standpoint. Its ability to regenerate body parts is arguably one of the most mind-boggling evolutionary features in the animal kingdom. While many animals have some degree of regenerative ability, such as the ability to regrow lost skin or feathers, the axolotl can regenerate entire limbs, spinal cord segments, heart tissue, and even parts of its brain without any scarring or loss of function. This regenerative power is so advanced that the axolotl has become a key subject of study for scientists researching tissue regeneration and stem cell biology. The axolotl's regeneration abilities begin when it loses a body part, such as a limb. The body responds by forming a structure known as a blastoma, which is essentially a mass of undifferentiated cells. These cells have the ability to transform into whatever tissues are needed to rebuild the lost body part. Over the course of a few weeks, the blastoma grows and develops into a new fully functional limb, complete with bones, muscles, and skin. Unlike humans and most other animals, whose attempts at regenerating lost tissue often result in scarring and incomplete regrowth, the axolotl's regrowth is perfect, leaving no trace of the injury. What's truly remarkable about the axolotl is its ability to regenerate multiple body parts at once. It can regrow not only its limbs, but also its spinal cord, and if necessary, its heart. In fact, axolotls have been known to recover from significant injuries, including the complete severing of their spinal cord, a feat that would be impossible for most animals. This level of regeneration is not only unique, but it's also a key area of scientific research, as scientists look to understand how the axolotl's cells manage to regenerate in such a perfect and coordinated way. From an evolutionary perspective, one might wonder why the axolotl has developed such extraordinary regenerative abilities. After all, not every species in the animal kingdom has the capacity to regrow lost limbs or body parts. The answer likely lies in the axolotl's environment and its relatively sedentary aquatic lifestyle. Unlike some amphibians that must constantly be on the move, The axolotl spends most of its time in the mud and water, where it faces little physical stress. Its primary threats are typically predators, such as fish or birds, and the need to escape or fight off such predators may have driven the development of its unique regenerative capabilities. The axolotl's ability to regrow body parts is an evolutionary advantage that helps it survive in a world where losing a limb could be the difference between life and death. However, while the axolotl's regeneration is extraordinary, its evolutionary path is not without its pitfalls. The axolotl's reliance on water for its entire life means that it is vulnerable to changes in its aquatic environment. Habitat destruction, water pollution, and the introduction of invasive species are major threats to axolotl populations, and as a result, the species has become critically endangered in the wild. In the wild, axolotls are only found in a few lakes near Mexico City, and their populations have been declining due to the degradation of their habitats. Despite their incredible regenerative abilities, axolotls are not immune to the effects of human activity and environmental change. Furthermore, the axolotl's continued existence in its juvenile form, relying on its aquatic environment for survival, has left it vulnerable to competition from other species that are better adapted to living in a wider range of environments. Other amphibians that undergo metamorphosis and become land-dwelling adults have a much broader range of habitats to choose from, giving them an evolutionary advantage over the axolotl. This dependency on a specific aquatic environment means that the axolotl has a narrow range of potential habitats, making it more susceptible to the impacts of climate change and habitat destruction. Interestingly, axolotls' regenerative abilities are linked to their relatively slow metabolism and long lifespan. While most amphibians live only a few years, axolotls can live for up to 15 years in the wild and even longer in captivity. This extended lifespan allows them time to regenerate and recover from injuries, which is essential for their survival. It also gives researchers plenty of time to study the mechanisms behind their remarkable regenerative capabilities. The axolotl's ability to regenerate is also tied to the presence of specialized stem cells in its body. Stem cells are undifferentiated cells that can turn into any type of cell in the body. In the case of the axolotl, these stem cells can be triggered to become the cells needed to regenerate a limb or other body part. Scientists have been studying axolotl stem cells in the hope that they can unlock the secrets of tissue regeneration and apply these findings to human medicine. The axolotl's regenerative abilities hold the promise of advancing regenerative medicine, helping humans with injuries or diseases that involve the loss of tissue or organs. While the axolotl has become an iconic species due to its regeneration abilities, it is also a reminder of how evolution can sometimes take unexpected and unconventional paths. Its reliance on water and its juvenile form may seem like evolutionary oddities, but they have helped the axolotl survive in its unique niche. However, its vulnerability to habitat loss and environmental changes demonstrates that even the most extraordinary adaptations can be compromised when faced with the threats of a rapidly changing world. The axolotl's evolutionary journey is a testament to the unpredictability of nature. From its unusual decision to remain in its larval form throughout its life to its incredible regenerative capabilities, the axolotl has evolved in ways that challenge our understanding of biology and evolution. While its future may be uncertain, it remains one of the most fascinating and inspiring creatures on the planet, and its survival may depend on how we as a species choose to protect the natural environments that support it. Animal number 13. The okapi, the forest's hidden gem. The okapi is a creature that has baffled scientists and intrigued the public for centuries. Its appearance, a hybrid of giraffe-like features and zebra-like striping, immediately draws attention. The okapi was only discovered by the Western world in the early 20th century, despite having lived in the dense rainforests of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, for millions of years. Its existence was kept a secret by the forests themselves, allowing it to survive in isolation for much of its evolutionary history. While this long isolation led to the okapi developing some fascinating and unique traits, it also illustrates how evolution can lead to a path that is not as perfectly adapted as it might seem. This animal, despite being one of the most intriguing examples of nature's design, demonstrates how evolution sometimes produces a creature that is so specialized that it may be doomed to face challenges it cannot overcome. At first glance, the okapi's features appear to have been designed for camouflage and survival in a dense forested environment. Its coat is a deep, dark reddish-brown, with bold white horizontal stripes on the legs, reminiscent of the zebra, and it has a long neck, though not as long as its distant relative, the giraffe. These unique features have helped it adapt to life in the dense, shaded forests of Central Africa. The striping on its legs provides camouflage in the dappled light filtering through the forest canopy, and the dark coloration helps it blend in with the shadows of the dense undergrowth. These adaptations are impressive in a world where survival depends so heavily on blending in with the environment to avoid predators. But when you look closer, you begin to realize that the okapi's specialized features, while ideal for its environment, have come at a cost. The okapi's evolutionary history is marked by its isolation in the Congo's rainforests. It is believed that the okapi and the giraffe shared a common ancestor tens of millions of years ago. Over time, the giraffe adapted to the open savannas of Africa, while the okapi evolved to become a forest dweller. The okapi has kept many features of the giraffe, like its long neck and large prehensile tongue, but has adapted them for a completely different environment. The okapi's neck, while not as long as the giraffe's, is still an important adaptation that allows it to reach high branches of trees to feed on leaves, which is a major part of its diet. Its tongue is incredibly flexible, long enough to reach its own ears and pull leaves from trees, without having to move too much, which is a clever adaptation to the dense forest where movement is more restricted. The problem, however, arises from the fact that the okapi has evolved to survive in one very specific environment. The Congo rainforest is a highly specialized ecosystem, with certain plants and types of vegetation that the okapi depends on. It feeds on tree leaves, fruits and ferns, all of which are abundant in the Congo. This specialized diet means that the okapi cannot easily move to another environment without serious consequences. It cannot thrive in savannas or grasslands, where it would face a lack of food. This dependency on a specific type of forest is one of the main reasons the okapi's future looks increasingly uncertain. The Congo rainforest, while once vast and unspoiled, is rapidly disappearing. Deforestation, driven by logging, agriculture, and mining, is wreaking havoc on the okapi's habitat. The loss of trees and the fragmentation of the rainforest make it harder for the okapi to find the food it needs. And as the forest shrinks, the okapi becomes increasingly isolated, making it harder for the species to find mates and reproduce. The okapi has evolved to thrive in a particular environment, but now that environment is in danger, and the okapi's specialized nature leaves it ill-equipped to survive in the face of such rapid changes. The okapi is also highly vulnerable to poaching. Despite its elusive nature, the okapi is hunted for its meat, and its habitat is often encroached upon by human settlements. The dense forests that once provided the okapi with the protection it needed from predators have become more accessible as human activity increases. The okapi has few natural predators, as its primary threat comes from humans. This means that the very environment it once thrived in, with all of its camouflage and hidden spaces, is no longer safe. The okapi has evolved to be elusive, but its survival is being undermined by the very thing that once protected it: its reliance on dense, difficult-to-reach forests. Another challenge the okapi faces is its solitary nature. While some species thrive in groups, the okapi is a solitary animal, coming together only to mate. This means that its reproductive rates are lower compared to species that form larger groups. And in a world where the okapi's habitat is being destroyed, this solitary nature makes it harder for them to find mates, further reducing the population's ability to recover. The okapi's solitary behavior, while advantageous for reducing competition for food in the dense forests, makes it vulnerable to population bottlenecks. If its numbers continue to decline, it will become increasingly difficult for the species to recover, as the small population will have a limited gene pool, increasing the risk of inbreeding. The okapi's evolution is a testament to the complexity of nature. It has evolved to be perfectly suited to its environment, but that environment is now under threat, and the okapi is struggling to adapt to the changes that are happening around it. The okapi's story is an example of how evolution can lead to highly specialized species that are incredibly well suited to their environment for a time, but that may struggle to survive when the environment itself changes. The okapi's reliance on the forest, its solitary nature, and its specialized diet make it particularly vulnerable to the destruction of its habitat. While its unique traits allowed it to thrive for millions of years in the dense forests of the Congo, those same traits may ultimately lead to its demise if the pressures of habitat loss, poaching, and climate change continue. The okapi's story is one of both fascination and tragedy. It is a living reminder of how evolution can create incredible creatures, perfectly suited to their environments, but also how those same creatures can be at risk when that environment changes in ways that are beyond their control. The okapi is a creature of mystery, a symbol of the fragile balance between evolution and the environment. While it may continue to survive in the forests of Congo for now, its future remains uncertain, and its story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of specialization and the rapid pace of environmental change. Animal number 14. The fennec fox, evolution's mistake in the desert heat. The fennec fox, a small, agile creature found in the heart of the Sahara Desert, is a fascinating study in how evolution can sometimes take strange turns when adapting a species to an extreme environment. This little fox, weighing just around 2.5 to 3.5 pounds, with a body length of about 24 inches excluding its bushy tail, may seem like an unlikely survivor in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. The Sahara, with its scorching heat during the day and freezing temperatures at night, is a place where only the most uniquely adapted animals can thrive, and the fennec fox is one of them. But looking at it closely, we can see how the very traits that allow this animal to survive in such a brutal environment might also be what makes its existence so precarious. One of the most prominent features of the fennec fox is its huge ears. These ears can measure up to 6 inches long, which is almost a third of the fox's total body length. While these large ears are incredibly cute, they serve an essential purpose beyond their appearance. They help the fennec fox regulate its body temperature. The desert can experience temperature fluctuations so extreme that daytime highs can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees Celsius, while at night, it can drop to freezing. In such a harsh environment, controlling body temperature is crucial for survival. The fennec fox uses its oversized ears as a sort of natural heat exchanger, releasing excess heat from the body into the atmosphere. This adaptation is essential during the blistering daytime heat, as it helps keep the fox from overheating, allowing it to survive in a place where most other animals would perish. But while the large ears are a critical adaptation to desert life, they also present some evolutionary disadvantages. These ears are not only large but also quite delicate and thin-skinned. In a world where predators lurk, whether in the form of birds of prey or larger carnivores, such a prominent and fragile feature becomes a target. It's easy to see how such vulnerable ears could be caught by predators. While they help with heat dissipation, they also make the fennec fox an easy target for those who might want to inflict harm. The large ears then are both a blessing and a curse. In addition to its large ears, the fennec fox has another key feature, its small size. This may seem like an advantageous trait, given that it helps the fox conserve energy in an environment where food can be scarce. However, this small size also makes the fennec fox highly vulnerable. In the food chain of the desert, being small means being at the bottom of it, and the fennec fox is constantly at risk of being preyed upon by larger animals such as birds of prey or even other desert carnivores like the African wildcat. While its size helps it avoid some dangers, it also leaves it at the mercy of larger, more powerful predators. Evolution has favored its small size because it allows the fox to hide more easily in burrows or behind rocks, but it also means that in the wrong place at the wrong time, it has little chance against an attacker much larger than itself. One of the fennec fox's most notable traits is its ability to survive with little water. In the scorching heat of the desert, water is an incredibly scarce resource, but the fennec fox has evolved to go for days, sometimes even weeks, without drinking. Instead, it survives on moisture from the food it eats, primarily insects, small mammals and plants. The fennec fox's kidneys are highly efficient at conserving water, which is essential for living in an environment where every drop of water counts. Its diet is composed mostly of nocturnal creatures that have adapted to live in the same harsh environment, and this means that the fennec fox must be an expert hunter, relying on its incredible sense of hearing and sharp reflexes to catch prey. It is during the cool nights that the fennec fox emerges from its burrow to hunt, avoiding the deadly heat of the day. This adaptation to nocturnal activity allows it to escape the brutal heat, but it also means that it has to contend with a new set of challenges. The nocturnal lifestyle puts it at risk of encountering other predators that come out at night, such as owls or larger carnivores that are also adapted to hunt in the dark. While the fennec fox's adaptations to desert life are remarkable, they also speak to the often fragile and imperfect nature of evolution. The fox's reliance on its burrowing habits for safety, for example, highlights an interesting paradox. On the one hand, burrows offer protection from the intense heat and predators, allowing the fennec fox to stay cool and safe during the day. But burrows can also be a double-edged sword. If predators discover the entrance to these underground shelters, the fennec fox is in great danger. Its reliance on burrowing means that it must constantly be on the lookout for threats, and any mistake in finding a safe place could lead to its demise. Another peculiar trait of the fennec fox is its diet. While it is a carnivorous creature, it has a relatively limited range of prey. Its small size and nocturnal habits mean it must rely on insects, small mammals, and the occasional fruit to survive. This diet, while effective in the short term, may not be the best long-term strategy. The scarcity of food in the desert means that the fennec fox's diet is highly dependent on its ability to hunt successfully at night. If prey becomes scarce or harder to find, the fennec fox could find itself in a precarious situation. Evolution has adapted it to survive with limited food sources, but the desert ecosystem is fragile, and any disruption to that system could have devastating effects on the fennec fox's ability to thrive. Despite these challenges, the fennec fox has managed to survive in the Sahara Desert for thousands of years. Its evolutionary history is a testament to the ability of life to adapt to extreme conditions. However, the very traits that have allowed the fennec fox to survive in such a hostile environment are also the traits that make it vulnerable. Evolution, it seems, is a balancing act. Adaptations that help a species survive one challenge can also open it up to new risks. For the fennec fox, the large ears, the small size, the reliance on burrows, and the nocturnal hunting habits all serve as examples of how evolution, while powerful, can sometimes create traits that leave a species on a knife's edge, constantly balancing between survival and extinction. In the end, the fennec fox is a creature that embodies the paradoxes of evolution. Its small size and large ears, its reliance on a nocturnal lifestyle and burrowing, all help it thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. But these same traits also highlight the risks of survival in a place where resources are scarce, predators are lurking, and every day is a struggle for survival. Evolution may have allowed the fennec fox to adapt to the Sahara Desert, but in doing so, it has created a creature that constantly faces the dangers of its own evolutionary choices. And that, in a way, is the true cost of survival in the unforgiving world of the Sahara Desert. Animal number 15. The jerboa, the desert acrobat. The jerboa is one of the most fascinating and unique creatures that you can find in the desert regions of northern Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. At first glance, the jerboa may seem like just another small, unremarkable rodent, but this tiny animal is so much more than that. With its massive hind legs, large ears, and long tufted tail, it is a living example of how evolution can take unexpected turns to create one of the most specialized and resilient creatures to survive in the harshest environments on Earth. The jerboa's distinctive kangaroo-like legs are by far its most striking feature. The rear legs, which are disproportionately large compared to the rest of its body, allow the jerboa to make incredible leaps across the hot desert ground. These long legs enable the animal to travel distances of up to 10 feet in a single bound. This ability is crucial for survival in the desert, where quick movements can mean the difference between life and death. The jerboa uses its impressive leaps to evade predators, find food, and cover the vast stretches of desert that it calls home. However, these long hind legs are not just for show, they are an adaptation that serves multiple purposes. The jerboa's primary mode of movement is through hopping, not running, and these long legs are perfectly suited for such an efficient, energy-conserving method of locomotion. By using its hind legs in this way, the jerboa can conserve energy, making it more efficient at moving across vast desert landscapes, where food and water are scarce. Each jump allows the animal to cover a significant amount of ground in a very short amount of time, giving it an advantage when it comes to foraging for food or escaping predators. What's particularly remarkable about the jerboa's legs is that they are not just long but also extremely muscular, allowing for impressive power and agility. These strong hind limbs, when combined with the animal's incredible leaping ability, make the jerboa one of the most agile creatures in the desert. It can leap across rocky terrain, navigate through the sand dunes, and bound through the harsh desert landscape with astonishing speed. But while these legs are perfect for hopping, they come at a cost. The jerboa's body is not built for running, and its short front legs make it difficult for the creature to perform other types of movements like climbing or digging efficiently. It's almost as if the jerboa has specialized in a single form of movement, jumping, and that is the method by which it has carved out a niche in the desert environment. To maintain balance while leaping, the jerboa also relies on its long, tufted tail. This tail is not just for decoration, it serves as a counterbalance to the animal's long legs. The jerboa's tail helps to keep the creature steady as it jumps, acting almost like a rudder when it is mid-air. It allows the jerboa to make sharp turns while jumping, avoid obstacles, and land with precision. The tail also serves as a form of communication among jerboas, as they can use it to signal other members of their group or warn each other about approaching predators. Without this highly specialized tail, the jerboa would likely have difficulty maintaining its balance during the high-speed jumps that are so critical to its survival. In addition to their remarkable locomotion, jerboas have adapted to desert life in a number of other ways. One of the most notable adaptations is their ability to survive in conditions where water is virtually non-existent. The jerboa is a perfect example of an animal that has evolved to conserve water in every possible way. It doesn't need to drink water directly from an external source in order to survive. Instead, it gets the moisture it needs from the plants and seeds that it consumes. The jerboa's diet is composed primarily of seeds, but it will also eat some leaves, fruits, and the occasional insect. These foods provide not only essential nutrients, but also the small amount of water that the jerboa needs to survive. The animal's kidneys are extremely efficient at conserving water, and it has adapted to excrete a minimal amount of waste while retaining as much moisture as possible from its food. The jerboa's ability to survive without drinking water is a vital survival trait in the desert, where rain is scarce and water sources are few and far between. In fact, some jerboas can go for weeks without drinking water directly. Instead, they have developed a form of survival that is both efficient and necessary in the harsh desert environment. Their diet and their kidneys allow them to thrive in a place where many other creatures would quickly perish. One of the most impressive and interesting aspects of the jerboa is its nocturnal behavior. The desert is an incredibly hot and unforgiving place during the day, with temperatures that can exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees Celsius. For most creatures, being exposed to the sun during the day would be lethal. So, the jerboa has evolved to be a nocturnal animal, remaining hidden during the day and only coming out at night to hunt, forage, and do its business. By being active during the night, the jerboa avoids the scorching heat and the burning rays of the sun. At night, the temperatures in the desert can drop to a much more manageable level, and the jerboa can move about the landscape without being overwhelmed by the heat. Being nocturnal also helps the jerboa avoid daytime predators, such as hawks, eagles, and other birds of prey that would readily swoop down to snatch up an unsuspecting jerboa. By staying hidden during the day and coming out at night, the jerboa has found a way to avoid both the elements and its predators, giving it an edge in its harsh environment. It is during the night that the jerboa is most active, using its long legs to cover large distances in search of food and mates. The desert, despite being so harsh, is a place where the jerboa has found its perfect niche. Its nocturnal habits allow it to exploit the desert's resources while staying safe from harm. But despite these incredible adaptations, the jerboa is not without its challenges. The very traits that make it so well suited for desert life also limit its ability to survive in other environments. For example, its long hind legs, while perfect for jumping across the desert, would not serve it well in places with dense vegetation or thick forests, where the jerboa would struggle to move efficiently. The jerboa's reliance on nocturnal activity also restricts its access to certain food sources that are only available during the day, such as fruits and flowers that bloom in the sunlight. Additionally, the jerboa's small size, which is beneficial in many ways, also makes it vulnerable to a variety of predators. Its tiny body makes it an easy target for birds of prey, snakes, and other desert predators that would see it as an easy meal. Moreover, the jerboa's specialized adaptations, while beneficial in the desert, have left it with certain limitations that could be seen as a form of evolutionary trade-off. Its highly efficient jumping abilities are perfect for moving across the desert, but they limit its ability to perform other types of movements. It can't run like many other animals can, and it is not an efficient climber. This reliance on one form of movement, while serving it well in its natural habitat, could prove to be a disadvantage if the environment were to change in ways the jerboa could not adapt to. Yet despite these challenges, the jerboa has thrived in the desert, carving out a unique niche for itself. It is a living testament to how evolution, in its often unpredictable course, can create creatures that are perfectly suited to their environments, even if those environments seem impossibly harsh and inhospitable. The jerboa's leaping abilities, water-conserving diet, and nocturnal lifestyle make it one of the most remarkable survivors in one of the world's most unforgiving habitats. In the vast deserts where few creatures can survive, the jerboa stands out as an extraordinary example of how evolution can produce creatures that are both highly specialized and incredibly resilient. So, the next time you imagine the desert as a barren wasteland, consider the jerboa, hopping along the dunes in the dark of night, fully adapted to a life where few creatures could hope to survive. This tiny acrobatic rodent may be small, but in the grand scheme of evolution, it is a giant survivor in a land that offers few chances for survival. The jerboa proves that even in the harshest of environments, life finds a way, sometimes in the most unexpected and extraordinary forms.